Elizabethan Jacobean prose writers. So let us look at the next writer. We had completed in our yesterday's class up till this, that is Thomas Overbury, Ben Jonson and Thomas Overbury. So Ben Jonson, obviously, you know, as a dramatist, a very great dramatist. He was the contemporary of Shakespeare, but his Timber or Discoveries is one of his major prose works, where he helped to develop literary criticism. And another writer was Thomas Overbury. His major work is Characters, character writing. He took up the social types and such characters as the courtier, the hypocrite, the pedant, and the like, and analyzed their habits and their moral qualities. After these two writers, we will move on to John Donne. Now, John Donne, from your reading of the history of English poetry in your previous semester, you have come upon the name of John Donne, and you had one of his poems, The Sun Rising, I believe, and he is one of the major metaphysical poets. But he also was a major prose writer and a preacher. So he was associated with the church and he was a preacher as well. So two of his major prose works are sermons and devotions upon emergent occasions. So sermons, obviously, he, as a priest, he delivered different sermons, that is the certain passages from the Holy Bible, and these were later written down, delivered these passages and explained them to his hearers. Another book is Devotions upon Emergent Occasions. The features of his books are intellectual intensity, emotional depth, and complex argumentation. So these are the three characteristics of his books. Obviously, the intellectual intensity or high level of intellectual intensity is visible here in these books. And also, as we can see, he was noted for his emotional depth, the emotional depth of his writings, and the complex argumentation of his works. One of the famous lines from his prose works is "No man is an island." No man is an island. So obviously he emphasized on the social aspect of human beings, that man is a social creature. He cannot live alone. So this is John Donne, one of the prose writers of the Jacobean period. After that comes our last prose writer, who is Thomas Hobbes, 1588 to 1679. His importance is that he contributed to the development of philosophical and political prose. And his major work is Leviathan. Leviathan is the shortened form of the book, which is titled Leviathan, or the Matter, Form, and Power of a Commonwealth, Ecclesiastical and Civil. So it is commonly known as Leviathan. ছোট করে এটাকে Leviathan বলা হয়, কিন্তু এটার নামটা আরো বড়। The Matter, Form, and Power of a Commonwealth, Ecclesiastical and Civil. So both relating to religious matters and civil matters. And the themes are political authority, social contract, and human nature. So this is actually a social work of social and political theory. Thomas Hobbes was an empiricist philosopher, and he was a political theorist as well. And uh, this work was actually derived from a sea serpent. Leviathan is a sea serpent of the Hebrew Bible, and the reference to the Leviathan is found in earlier mythologies as well. So here, actually, what Thomas Hobbes is doing, he is concerned with the structure of society and government and social contract theory. He's expounding the social contract theory here. Uh, the social contract theory is a kind of an idea or theory or a kind of a model which concerns the legitimacy of the authority of the state over the individual. So, how far the state can exercise its power over the individual subject. So, that is called the social contract theory. And this work, Leviathan, is an example of one of the earliest examples of uh, this particular kind of work, social contract theory. His style is clear and logical, so it is not difficult to understand, and he is also rational and argumentative. Rational and argumentative, he uses his reason to drive home his points, and he also argues and establishes his points, his thoughts. So he was an empiricist philosopher, meaning he was relying on experiments as empiricist philosophers do. So, what is the contribution of Thomas Hobbes to the growth of Jacobean prose? Thomas Hobbes helped to establish modern political philosophy in English prose. So, this is his contribution. So, with the discussion of Thomas Hobbes, we have come to the end of our list of the Jacobean writers. So, I'll now move on to the next slide where, no, sorry, there is one other writer. He is Isaac Walton. Isaac Walton, 1593 to 1683. He had a very long life, and his major work is the Complete Angler. Angler is a fisherman. So he is discussing here in this book the art of fishery, that is catching fish. So the features are simplicity, pastoral charm, and gentle reflective tone. So Isaac Walton was talking about the art of catching fish, and in a very simple language, you have a kind of a pastoral charm, because obviously in the countryside you can hope to catch fish, not in the city. And there is a gentle reflective tone in the work. Walton brought intimacy and natural description into prose. So he brought a kind of an intimate conversational style. So this is his contribution. Now I will look at the forms of Jacobean prose. The essay form was practiced by Sir Francis Bacon, and the feature is concise wisdom. Sermons by Lancelot Andrewes and John Donne, religious eloquence is one of the features. Character writing by Sir Thomas Overbury. It is marked by social observation. Philosophy by Thomas Hobbes, rational argument in the Leviathan. Scientific prose, again Sir Francis Bacon. The spirit of empirical inquiry is there. Historical prose, Sir Walter Raleigh in his The History of the World. The grand narrative style is adopted. Reflective prose, Sir Thomas Browne, meditation and symbolism are employed. So this is a very short kind of a table which shows you the forms of Jacobean prose. Jacobean prose কত রকমের ছিল, কারা মেজর রাইটার এবং তাদের লেখার মধ্যে কি কি ফিচার আছে. So I hope you have looked at this table and it would be easy for you to understand. I have prepared another table. I've got another one, comparison between Elizabethan and Jacobean prose. একটা comparison, তুলনামূলক একটুখানি আলোচনা ছোট করে. Elizabethan prose was experimental as against Jacobean prose, which was more mature and analytical, যেটা আগে বলেছি। Elizabethan times এ প্রোজটা আস্তে আস্তে তৈরি হচ্ছিল। It was in a state of experiment, but during the time of James I, it had reached a mature and analytical form. It was largely ornamental in case of Elizabethan prose, লাইলির prose দেখতে পাও তোমরা সেটা, but in the Jacobean prose, the element of scholarly and reflective prose is visible. Romantic tone is there, Elizabethan prose. Philosophical seriousness is there in Jacobean prose. Euphuistic style is common in Elizabethan prose, but greater intellectual depth is visible in Jacobean prose. Courtly elegance, an element of courtly elegance is there in in Elizabethan prose, but religious and scientific inquiry, the spirit of religious and scientific inquiry is there in Jacobean prose. So we have this kind of distinction, and now I will come to the last slide of this PowerPoint presentation. A contribution of Jacobean prose to English literature. So, development of mature English style. Jacobean writers gave prose greater flexibility, precision, and intellectual power. So, অনেক বেশি flexible, precision, অনেক precise ওয়েতে লেখা হয়েছে, এবং intellectual power. The thought process is quite serious. Next is advancement of scientific thinking. Bacon and others promoted observation and empirical reasoning, experimentation based on experimentation. Enrichment of religious literature. The King James Bible and the sermons shaped English prose permanently. সুতরাং ইংলিশ প্রোজকে অনেকটাই শেপ দিয়েছিল কিং জেমস বাইবেল, যেটা একটা মনুমেন্টাল ওয়ার্ক ছিল সারমনগুলো। Foundation for later prose forms. It laid the foundation for later prose forms. Jacobean prose influenced the modern essay. বুঝতেই পারছো, স্যার ফ্রান্সিস বেকনের হাতে শুরু হয়। লিটারারি ক্রিটিসিজম, এটাও পরে আস্তে আস্তে ডেভেলপ করলো ইংলিশ নভেল এবং ফিলোসফিক্যাল প্রোজ। সুতরাং এই জিনিসগুলো সবই পরবর্তীকালে ইন লেটার পিরিয়ডস অফ ইংলিশ লিটারেচার অল ডেভেলপড কনসিডারেবলি. So what would be our conclusion? Jacobean prose represents the maturity of Renaissance prose in England. So Renaissance prose যেটা maturity ছিল সেটা দেখা যায়. It combined scholarship, philosophical reflection, religious seriousness, and stylistic richness. সুতরাং এই জিনিসগুলো খুবই ছিল, স্কলারশিপটা ছিল পড়াশোনা সংক্রান্ত, philosophical reflection, religious seriousness ছিল, এবং stylistic richness. Writers such as Francis Bacon, Robert Burton, Sir Thomas Browne, and Thomas Hobbes expanded the scope of English prose and prepared the way for modern intellectual and literary writing. সুতরাং এই যে কয়েকজন রাইটারের নাম বলা হলো, অন্যরাও আছেন, তারা কিন্তু এটাকে আরো এগিয়ে নিয়ে গেছেন। ইংলিশ প্রোজের যে বিস্তৃতি সেটা আরো বিস্তৃত, মানে বড় হয়েছে জগৎটা। The age produced prose that was not merely decorative but analytical, philosophical, and deeply engaged with human life and society. So it was obviously a kind of prose which was not merely decorative, মানে শুধু ornamental prose নয়, কিন্তু তার মধ্যে অনেক philosophical elements এবং human life and society কে নিয়ে অনেক বেশি engagement ছিল। সুতরাং this is the presentation that I had for you, Elizabethan and Jacobean prose. As I had said earlier, তোমরা এটার উপরেও কিছু স্টাডি করবে, হিস্ট্রি অফ ইংলিশ লিটারেচার বুকস গুলো দেখবে, এবং এই যে রাইটারদের কথা বললাম আরো দু একজন রাইটার হয়তো আছেন, থাকবেন, হয়তো মিস করে গেছি, দু একটা রাইটার থাকবেন, তোমরা এটাকে নিয়ে প্লিজ অ্যাড টু দিস, সো ইউ ক্যান get a complete picture of Elizabethan and Jacobean prose. So this is our kind of presentation এটা ছিল।